How many of you here use Notion today? Yeah, like a ton of people. All right, you want to see a demo of Notion? Please welcome Marissa and Kenneth to talk about Notion's new MCP server.
All right, good evening, everyone. Hi, I'm Marissa, and this is Kenneth, and we're from the Notion API team, and we're super excited to give you an inside look into Notion MCP. So Notion MCP allows you to reference your Notion documents and databases. You can add them, you can update them, and you can also search across your entire workspace and connected tools using enterprise search. Let's walk through a solid example. So say you want to go from doc to product. And in this example, I've written a PRD for a rainbow memory game. I can jump right into Cursor and say, hey, can you implement this PRD for me? It's already running through everything. And you can imagine that we could extend this same exact use case to, say I already have some code already implemented, right? And I can also prompt Cursor to say, hey, did I miss anything in this PRD? Or even update the PRD itself to reflect the actual product functionality. So now that we've run our script, we have a memory game. With one prompt in Cursor and using the Notion MCP, we already have a working prototype. So Kenneth, please walk us through how we did it.
Amazing. I'd love to talk about how we got here, peek behind the curtain, and see what's next for MCP as well as for Notion MCP specifically. Our journey started a couple of months back with this downloadable open source package. You host it yourself, you create the API bearer token, you provision that with Notion, and then you get access to a subset of the public APIs we have, sort of one-to-one. Not all of them because our schema is pretty complex. And we also heard from the community that with this solution, you kind of hit context token limits pretty quickly because of the back and forth tool calls that are made when you kind of fetch a Notion page incrementally layer by layer using kind of the block children arrays in JSON. Then came our remote Notion MCP. This was a ground-up rewrite of a bunch of our tools for the sort of single-player, human-in-the-loop AI agent interaction experience. Basically, we had this like common Notion MCP public integration that you would OAuth into your workspace. Installation is significantly easier. And then once you have that, you get exposure to a bunch of these new things that we're piloting, including the ability to create, update, and fetch pages in Markdown with an enhanced Markdown syntax that goes beyond what you can do with common Markdown and adds the expressiveness that you would expect with like colors and all of the formatting that you would expect for Notion docs. It uses this user-based permission model instead of bot permission, where like it can access all of the pages and databases that you can, and the actions that you take, like creating a page, are attributed to you. It supports streamable HTTP and reluctantly also SSE. And to get here, we were able to ship pretty quickly by using standard Anthropic packages and the Hono server. And we used Cloudflare agents for hosting, including the durable objects with a Cloudflare KV store to kind of manage the refresh and all of that stuff for bearer tokens behind the scenes. This really helped us move quickly and focus on our business logic, but some MCP clients like N8N don't really work well with these like stateful MCP servers, and so we are aware of some limitations where like if we were to like support bearer tokens, that would kind of extend the gamut of clients that we support. One of the highlights of our launch moment last month was having a bunch of the prominent MCP client directories. We feature us as an MCP server that you can do this one-click installation with. So that includes ChatGPT, Deep Research, as well as Claude, as well as Cursor. We're very excited to be featured, and VS Code. And you can also kind of go to the Notion connection settings to also connect MCP servers from the Notion app. We also worked closely with the Cursor folks to kind of prioritize end-to-end use cases that zoomed out beyond the MCP protocol itself, and we really wanted to kind of work together to make the use cases happen. The ecosystem was evolving underfoot significantly as this was happening, and I wanted to preview some of our thoughts of like what's next for MCP itself, as well as for like Notion MCP. We want to first address like a lot of the MCP client and LLM limitations that we experience, at least with our testing. We saw that with Cursor, you kind of hit a limit after a few dozen tools across different providers. And you can imagine that like if some of these MCP servers are like using very granular, modular, small tools, you can kind of hit that limit quickly. We also saw kind of exceptions and errors with Gemini because of our Zod schema being too complex. So these are things that we want to kind of standardize. We also want to pull more stuff into the spec. We want to kind of work with other sort of like steering committee folks to improve server discovery protocols and installation simplicity. Imagine being able to go from a Notion page URL to kind of the full knowing that there's like an MCP server at that domain and being able to easily install that. That'd be like a pretty cool automated sort of improvement to the fetch process, as well as thinking about security, reliability, and making recommendations for evals and things like that. And finally, for Notion MCP itself, we want to expand the different functionality that's supported across tools, and we want to better support multiplayer scenarios, as well as think about what the auth model would look like when you have these sort of like workflows and headless agents. It's like a huge new world that we're careening towards.
Yeah, in the spirit of Notion, we're super excited to be a part of this MCP ecosystem and help shape the future of AI. So thank you so much for listening to our talk. If you have any questions, feel free to find us afterwards or connect with us on Twitter or X.
Thank you so much. Woo!